Have you ever walked into a party and no one's talking to anybody and it's kind of dark and dank and boring? Feel how the feeling tone of that, right? And notice I said dark and dank. Well, today we're going to explore what colors your world and what can you do with that concept to make a change in your life. Hi, I'm Christi Karate with Christi's Clarity. Once again here Friday at 10:10. So today, from my book, I've been going through the chapters one at a time beyond the box, which is 12 steps, actually 3 parts and 12 steps of how to make lasting change in your life to help you have the life that you love. So, on the other hand, have you ever walked into a party and it's like the music's going and it's great and fabulous and it's bright and light? I mean, even if it's dark, there's usually like flashing lights or things like that, and you're just like going, now this is a party. There is a reason that we respond and react to these things. It actually comes from our primitive brain to help us navigate situations as we walk into them. So what does this have to do with Color My World? Well, you get to choose how you perceive the given experiences that you walk into and how you choose to navigate them. And guess what? Through your use of the metaphor of color, you can experience ways to change midstream, mid-event, as I did once, flying mid-air before I hit the ground, right? So color is actually a perception perceived in the irises of our and cones and rods in our eyes. And so really animals see things differently because their rods and cones are different. And so really when I look out my window, I have a couple of little trellises out there that are purple, right? It says in my book, I love purple. I love all colors, but purple's my favorite, right? I see purple out there, right? But when my cat's out there looking, I don't know exactly what he sees, but purple is not a color that attracts him, right? Probably yellow of those little finches that we have flying in our backyard, right? So what can you do to create the deliberate use of the perception you see when you feel your emotions? That's really what I'm talking about in this fourth chapter of my book called Color Your World. Well, the book's called Beyond the Box, and there will be a link in this thread here. But you can go to beyondtheboxbook.com and purchase the book. And it is a 12-step guide to creating the life that you love. And today we're in week 4. So color is a representation of passion. Okay, you ever heard when people talk about being depressed? I mean, even the way they say the word depressed, and things feel dark and dank, not mysterious. It's not fun, right? And so how I like to explain this to people is that our thoughts come into our thinking. They go through a filter of passion, of our emotion, whether it's passion, depression, disappointment, or joy, or whatever. So our thoughts go in there, and whatever the filter is for the color of your emotions, that's what causes you to move into action to create the thing you want to bring into the world, whether it's your joy, whether it's enjoying life, whether it's having fun. You know, I had a friend show up to a little event I was having last night, and she had been out varnishing her fence when I reminded her she was going to come. And she said, I'm going to come as I am. But she didn't. She got dressed up nice and she came in, and I said, wow, this is really great. She says, I've made a commitment to fun. Okay, so here comes the thought, right? Oops, I'm right in the middle. I probably only have 20 more minutes to finish this, but I committed to fun. This is the passion. This is the image or the color. And that's caused her to move into action. Now, we have so many things that filter our emotions that we are not even aware of, right? So I've told you before about the iceberg, right? And the tip of the iceberg is what we think we're living from. The truth of the matter is the big chunk block, like the Titanic found out. I have to go which way on my calendar, my camera, found out was full of the things that we don't see that really run us, that cause us to do things unconsciously. So, this work that I do helps us bring to the surface what is the blocks or blocks that are keeping us from having the perception, choosing our perception of how to see the color in our world or the passion in our world, right? So, so the good news is in the beginning of the work that I do with my clients, we start identifying and bringing to the surface through an amazing process that I do called intuitive wisdom drawings, where I do the drawings, you don't have to. And so I help people through image bring to the surface those thoughts that are limiting them. The other day, I was talking with a client that had a challenge with her work, but she had no idea what was going on in her work. And through the process that we did, she discovered it was her triplet system. Now, I had no idea she was a triplet. And through understanding that, she was able to support and create a container of support for her triplet system. And on the other hand, she created a container of support for her work. And once she did that, she was able to help her work system thrive and the triplet system thrive. But she had separated them, and now she is thriving in both arenas of her life, right? But I had no idea. She had no idea until this work that we did. What's in your subconscious that is causing you to filter what you believe in? Most of this comes from our past. 90% of our thoughts are recycled. What does that mean? Things we learned, things that cause us to behave a certain way in the world. If you were told to be quiet and to be seen and not heard, then you've probably had a lot of struggle through your life of knowing how and when to speak up, right? And the thing is that is the past, right? And that was meant for little children in that day and age, right? So once you know, oh, that came from my past, you can say to yourself, that was then, and now the truth is, I have a voice, and people are waiting to hear me. Okay, and now you practice that. And remember, if you've gone to purchase my 21 days to change a habit, well, there are 21 tools to change a habit, you will see that you have to practice, practice, practice returning to that thought. It's not just the awareness of, oh, that was my triplet sister, or whatever else comes, that I was told to be seen and not heard. Okay, and that was the past. So you have to repeat that, repeat that, repeat that. But I want to tell you the good news is that when you practice that, when you get that inside of you, just like when I took my flying leap, those of you who know this story, and was able to change my thinking mid-air to I am well, when you get it inside of you to the degree that when you hit up against that feeling tone of, oh, I should be seen and not heard, and then you can pause yourself, a great tool, and say, the truth is, people are waiting to hear what I have to say. And you keep that in your conscious mind 90 days and more. I always say 21 days of tools, 90 days to practice them, and a lifetime to keep them in place. But once you get them inside of you, it becomes so much easier. So today, to color your world, what I was going to say about that is the good news is once you get that in you, you don't have to go back to your past every time and drag it up. In fact, you learn to just go, something's not right in where I'm going from now and to where I want to go. Remember point and set point in the very first, uh, uh, I think it was January, February, when we talked about from my book, Where Are You Now? Where do you want to go? What's in the way? Right? But now you can just resonate. Does this line up with where I want to go? No. What's the new thought? What's the new color? What's the new emotion that I want to put my thoughts through in order to bring my beautiful life into, not only into creating it in the world, but look at those hands, to serve others. When you show up authentically, when you shine your colors, you attract the like. It's Christi Karate, Christi's Clarity. See you next week when we continue this theme of Color My World.